So at Microsoft, we a lot of us get out in front of all of our customers and the territories that we cover, and we're constantly talking to our customers about this thing called the modern workplace. And so what's super important for you to take away from today is that Microsoft Teams, which happens to be the fastest growing application in the history of Microsoft, is really the center of the universe for all things happening around what we call the modern workplace. And so what's driving us and kind of what's the roadmap and what are the guidelines and guardrails for us creating this modern workplace is really driven by four major categories here. So the first one should be super obvious to everyone, right? By 2022, over 42% of the global workforce is going to be mobile, right? So the days of all of us showing up to our companies and going to a cubicle or an office, I mean, you probably all experience working from a coffee shop, working from home, doing a lot of work on your mobile devices. So we care much less about where you are, what device you're on these days, right? So it used to be, that's a big change for Microsoft, and that's been a big change in the works for years and years. And our leadership team has really ingrained that into our culture. And so one of the things that you should make sure when you're thinking of this modern workplace is how's Microsoft, not only from a user perspective, from a security perspective, allowing us to enable this mobility for our workers. Second is the way people are working is changing quite a bit. And so we have to be a lot more creative. We have to be able to go and find experts quicker. We have to be able to make decisions quicker. And that also relates to, hey, I want to work the way that I'm accustomed to working, whether it was when I was in college last year or in my personal life. So a lot of the experiences that people are bringing to the workplace are changing. And so we have to be able to, from Microsoft, provide all generations with the way to work that's very comfortable and cozy, but also enables you to do things quicker and find experts, all the things I mentioned before. The third bucket there is all around security. So I'll show you a glimpse of that today, just to give you some, maybe get you excited about some of the things that you'll see around security. But really, every company that we get in front of, it's really a matter of, you know, when you'll be breached as opposed to if. And so Microsoft is really investing in, at least equally, in how do we help you remediate in an automated fashion? How do we help you discover that breach? Because you know, nowadays, if you don't have these solutions in place to protect you, chances are a bad actor, if they get into your environment, will be there upwards of almost 3 years. And so you don't want that to happen. I'm sorry, almost a year, not 3 years. And so that's an extremely long time, and it's extremely expensive. So security is always a lens that we look through as we're trying to light up new experiences for your employees. And then the last kind of column there, talking about the new generations. So the reality is there's about 5 generations in the workplace today. And we always like to use the hockey puck analogy, right? So for those of you familiar with hockey, you always want to skate to where the puck is headed. And so one of the things that's really a driving force with us is the fact that by next year, so in a matter of months, half of the global workforce is going to be full of millennials. And so millennials don't work the way a lot of us who've been in the workforce for a long time work, right? So if they show up to an office and on day one and everybody, you know, looks excited and says, hey, welcome to the company, you have email, right? They're going to say, well, where's all the other things that I should use to get my job done? So they're very much accustomed to things like, you know, video and chat, and being able to just reach out and immediately get that connection with someone and communicate. And so that's really what we've done a great job of with regards to Teams in making sure that we're enabling, and it is, again, the center of the universe for this thing we call the modern workplace. So here's something I've gone through substantial pilots with customers. I've had a lot of my customers that are now fully deployed in Teams. And so one of the things that we are super excited about is it's not just us and our customers that are really making Teams the fastest growing application in the history of our company, but we also have a lot of credibility with analysts and others that are not Microsoft employees and are not our customers. And so if you're not familiar with it, there is a 28-year-old conference that takes place every year, and it's focused on two things. It's focused on collaboration and communication only. And that conference is called Enterprise Connect. And if you're not aware of it, just go look them up with your favorite search engine. So right before our 1-year anniversary with Teams last year, we showed up to this conference and showed off all the things we're doing with Teams. And we walked away. We were super excited to walk away the winner. And there's only one winner, right? Best of show at Enterprise Connect. We walked away the winner in 2018. And so that certainly, put a lot of wind in our sail. We realized that, we're being recognized for all the work we're doing around Teams, and the scenarios that we're working on really resonate with everyone. And so just last week, as an FYI, we showed up to Enterprise Connect again, right? And one thing to make clear here is everybody, the who's who of any collaboration or communication vendor is at this conference. This is not a Microsoft conference. It's a third-party conference that we show up just like every other competitor shows up to. And once again, the exciting news is that we won Best of Enterprise Connect just last week for the second year in a row. And here's the tweet from Enterprise Connect where it says Microsoft takes home 2019 Best of Enterprise Connect overall award for Microsoft Teams, marking its second win in a row. And by the way, to my knowledge, this is the first time a company like Microsoft has won Enterprise Connect 2 years in a row. So it just kind of shows the strategic nature, all the investments we've made around all those core pillars that I showed earlier, and making sure that Teams is really hitting the mark with our customers in every industry that you can imagine. Okay, here's why I think when I talk to customers, the feedback I get is here's what makes us super unique from a company providing intelligent communication and collaboration. So if you think of Microsoft in the past, these are really the 5 core experiences that we've been known for when it comes to collaboration and communication. So if you start on the right, we've got employee engagement led by Yammer. We'll talk about that in a few moments, a little bit longer. We've got all of your files and sites and content managements and portals, right? And departmental sites, all driven by SharePoint and OneDrive for Business. We've got the ability to create content and co-create content using the rich experiences with Office 365 Pro Plus. I'm going to, well, I won't today, but in a future session for Try This at Work, we're going to go through and really dive into Teams. This is kind of an intro, if you will. And so I'm going to show you some things in an upcoming session that will really show you new experiences around creating content. And historically, everybody has thought of and has used Skype for Business for video, voice, and meetings, right? And that's changing. So if you haven't heard of this yet, probably 9-10 months ago, we hit a milestone where we said, look, if you're using Skype for Business for meetings, you should really start moving all that over to Teams, because we've filled in all the gaps from a capability perspective. And then most of us probably, if you've been in the workplace for a while, email and calendar has been, this kind of ruled the day. It's what, you open it up in the morning, you're seeing if people are bringing you into conversations. And so that's something that you're going to see change once you get into this world of the new modern workplace. And so one of the things we woke up to about 4.5 years ago is the fact that customers were coming to us and saying, hey, we've got people showing up and talking to us and saying email is dead. And we don't subscribe to that at all. But we do acknowledge the fact that there's a huge, group of employees in every industry that want to work differently, right? And they don't start with email. And so this has everything to do with this persisted group chat experience. And so what we did is we said, let's go back to the drawing board. We recognized that we had a deficit in this persisted group chat experience from a Microsoft, tool set perspective. And so we said, let's create one from scratch. And so we created Teams. Again, Teams has been wildly successful so far. And why I think that's the case is all of those other 5 experiences that a lot of our customers have been experiencing across Office 365, well, they now can come right into the Teams experience. And so a lot of our customers, and what we've been saying about Teams is it really is the hub for teamwork. So very similar to a lot of us who have always shown up and opened up Outlook and just lived in Outlook. Now we see that people are showing up to work and they're literally opening up Teams and they're accessing all of those different experiences, which used to be historically different places I'd have to go. So I'd have to go to Yammer to do something, right? I'd have to go to SharePoint to upload a file or to download a file. I'd have to go to Word, Excel, or PowerPoint to create content, or go to the browser to do that in the online experience. I'd have to go to Skype to create a meeting, or to join a meeting, or to instant message someone, right? I'd have to go to Outlook to set up a calendar invite, things like that. And so just right here, super valuable in that all of the Office 365 experiences are coming right into Teams as that hub for teamwork. Now, we don't stop there. We say, look, we are now going to sprinkle on some other born in the cloud experiences that really help teams of people come together and get things done. So as an example, we'll start on the left. Planner. Planner is our task management solution that's born in the cloud. It's part of Office 365, and it allows you to go in as you're working on different tasks to assign and delegate those tasks to other people. And you can get great views of, hey, how many tasks do we have open? What's the progress? Who owns them? Things of that nature. And we'll show you that in an upcoming session of Try This at Work. We've got Power BI that's leading. It's our de facto standard for data analysis and visualization. And so again, it integrates directly into Microsoft Teams. And if you ask yourself, why would I want my users to have to bounce out to go to some dashboard outside of Teams if we're all working in Teams, right? So that's the beauty of Teams, is we just pull all of these things that we need to have access to get our objective done right here within a channel. And so now if you keep going to the right, we've got all of our team notes. So for any of you who use OneNote, then you'll be happy to know that we're integrating OneNote directly into Teams. We have integrated OneNote directly into Teams. And so all of the collaboration notes between you and the group of people trying to get something done, it's integrated already seamlessly into Teams. All of your files are accessible in Teams. You can access files on your hard drive. You can access files in SharePoint and in your Teams and chats and all of that. And then the last one on the bottom right is kind of a hidden gem of Office 365. It's our video service. It's called Stream. And so Stream uses Azure Media Services to stream, video. If you're familiar with Wistia or YouTube or Vimeo, right? So there's this whole concept of channels. Well, you have that now as an Office 365 customer, and it integrates seamlessly into Teams. So you could bring channels into Teams to drive training. You could, anything you'd want that has to do with video, now it integrates right into Teams. So that looks all well and good, right? Those are all Microsoft experiences that are coming into that single hub for teamwork called Teams, but we don't stop there. We know that you don't live in a Microsoft bubble. You use all sorts of SaaS applications from third parties. And so one of the things that you'll see here is this is just the list of connectors that are available. So look at all of the, not only Microsoft, but third-party SaaS connectors that you can reach out to and bring information that's relevant to that group of people trying to get something done right here into the Microsoft Teams hub for teamwork, right? So if I'm part of HR, I can go pull in all my information from other third-party SaaS applications, perhaps right into the channel where we're working as HR. So I'm not switching context all day long, which is what we hear from customers a lot. And so you can see that that scroll bar on the right is very small, and that's indicative of there being a ton of these connectors. And by the way, there's 3 ways you can pull in third-party SaaS experiences into Teams. What you're seeing here is a lineup of the connectors, and this list grows exponentially every week. But there's also bots and there's also tabs, and I'll introduce you to tabs in a little bit when we go through some of the demo. All right, so a lot of, if you get nothing else, just remember that everything that you should want to have access to is coming into Teams as that single hub for teamwork. Okay, so this is really intended to show you what Microsoft's vision is for enabling you to get things done within your company. And so all of us got hired because we're good at something within, our respective organizations. And so that's the me aspect, right? So there's a component of I show up and I'm going to start a proposal. I'm part of HR, so I'm going to start an employee handbook. But almost immediately, those initiatives turn into a group of people coming together to complete that, right? So that's what we call the inner loop. People you work with on a regular basis to get something done, right? And then, so most people look at that and say, wow, that's exactly what we're after. And so we're really looking to solve for that inner loop. But they oftentimes don't think through the full collaboration experience that needed within an organization. And so something you don't want to miss out on is also this outer loop collaboration. And so when you think of the outer loop, that's people that you connect with across the organization. There's some examples here, right? Corporate communications is a great one. You've got CEO town hall meetings. You've got employee interest groups. We see a lot of scenarios where people are connecting the different silos within a company. And so those are all things that are driven by this outer loop. And people always ask me, hey, what's the difference in the inner loop and outer loop? Because what we tell you is, hey, Microsoft Teams is really what's driving that teamwork, which is the inner loop. And Yammer, another part of Office 365, is driving that outer loop, that engagement model, we like to call it. And so people ask me all the time, hey, what's the difference between those two? And so it's super easy. The example I always give is, believe it or not, the Microsoft Teams engineering and marketing folks within Microsoft, they have one of the most active Yammer groups within our network, because they are able to use Yammer to connect with people like myself and my peers across the globe that have feedback after talking with customers about our solutions. So Yammer is extremely important for customers who are trying to drive perhaps some type of culture change, right? They're trying to transform their company. They're trying to increase and attract and retain talent. That's all driven by Yammer. All right, so most people say, hey, Brent, how do those things come together? So let's say that I am a member of HR and I'm a member of HR. So HR is my inner loop, right? And so the idea is I'm going to show up and I'm going to open up Teams and I'm going to live in Teams to get all the things that I'm working with my inner loop on. But that doesn't mean I don't have needs for interacting with my outer loop, right? So the outer loop, if I'm in HR, the outer loop is every employee that I represent. And so I need a way for them to engage with HR, to ask and get questions answered. And so that's where Yammer comes in. So we're going to let every employee within Contoso have Yammer, whether it's on their phone, in a browser, it's hanging off of our, or it's embedded in our portal perhaps. And so we give tons of scenarios where employees can go and interact with HR through an HR group in Yammer. So most people say, well, then why do you have two different solutions? And the great news is, again, if I'm part of HR and my inner loop is HR, then I'm gonna, as you see here, show up and look at and interact only with Teams. But I want to make sure that I don't miss out on someone that's an employee of my Contoso Corp trying to interact with us in Yammer. And so what we've done is we've set up a Yammer group called HR, and all we've had to do is remember the connectors that I showed you earlier? We just set up a connector for Yammer and said, hey, anytime somebody comes in and asks a question of the HR group, then we want to see that in Teams. So here's the first example of us not having to move out of Teams to go and have access to all of the outer loop people trying to engage us. And so what you'll see here is we have some, we have a question from Aziz, and he's asking us, hey, it looks like our website might be down. And so now Garth goes and says, hey, Alex, can you go follow up with this user? And Alex says, sure. And then all Alex has to do, without going and doing anything else, he just goes and clicks on Yammer HR. So this is one method of me pulling Yammer right here into Teams so that I can traverse both my inner loop with all my HR brethren and engage with my outer loop using Yammer for those people to interact with us. But we don't have to go to Yammer. We just bring Yammer into Teams, which is phenomenal. So we've gotten tons of great feedback about this. I'm going to show you two other things when we get to the demo here of ways that the Yammer team has provided integration seamlessly into Teams to make sure that you have a great experience. All right, so this is that demo, right? So let's talk about our outer loop. So I'm in Teams here, and you'll see that over there's an HR team, and I have this this channel called Engage. So the whole idea here is that we want to pull in those conversations from Yammer into this channel so that we can stay up to task on what people are asking us. So in this scenario, you'll see that I have this connector, and it's Alan saying, hey, HR team, I'm looking for the most recent employee handbook. Can you help? #newbie. And so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to reply and I'll say, hey, at Megan. So I'm not replying here, and this is the key. I'm not replying to Alan. What I'm doing is this is a connector coming into Teams, which allows me to have an interloop conversation about this. So what I'm doing is trying to line up somebody within HR, my interloop, to say, hey, Megan, go out and please interact with this employee. And so once I do that, I want to show you what that looks like for Megan, right? So she's going to get a little pop-up here that says, Irvin's mentioned you in the Engage channel with an HR. And so if I go up here, I can see that it is, in fact, Megan, right? And so you'll see Megan there. And so Megan's going to come in, and she will hit the reply option here, and she'll say, you know it, smiley face, and she'll send it. And so, again, she doesn't have to go anywhere. All she does is she's going to click on this brand new, we just released it, this Yammer tab that is integrated seamlessly into Teams here. And so this is connected to the HR group. And so all she's got to do is click on that, and she's able to see just the conversations within the HR group within Yammer. She interacts with Alan right there, and then she's off to the races. So think about that. She did all of that without leaving Teams whatsoever. Okay. One other thing, let's talk about how I connected those. And so I'm going to introduce you to connectors and tabs real quick. So I'm going to go over here to the Engage tab, and I'm going to first show you this connector, right? How did I get Alan's post in Yammer to come into Teams? Well, I went into connectors, and I right-clicked on Engage, and I said, let's set up this connector for Yammer. So if I click on configured items, this will show you all of the connectors that you have configured for this channel. And so all I did is I went in and said, hey, when anyone creates a new conversation, I want to pull that into Teams. And now what I'll show you is to create that tab called HR, I just click the plus button, and you'll see a brand new tab down here called Yammer, right? So you just click on that, you point it to the group that you want to pull into this channel, and you're off to the races, and you have that beautifully integrated experience. Okay, I am going to have to, let me come over here for a moment. Perfect. Okay. So now what I want to do, I'm just keeping a track of time. All right. So let me show you one other thing. So let's talk about email, right? So email is one of those things that people are like, look, I get it. You're talking about the inner loop and the outer loop, but I feel like, Brent, especially when I'm just entering into this Teams new experience, I feel like I'm cheating on my email. Like I don't want to give up on the email experience that I've been dependent on so long. And so I have a great solution here. So what you'll notice is Irvin has gone in and he set up what's called Irvin's Hub, right? So it's a team that only Irvin has access to. And in that, he's got a general tab and he's got important email and kudos and things like that. So follow along as I do this here. So I'm going to go into the general tab, and notice what happens is I have this email tab within that general channel. Okay. And so when I click on that, I'll show you what that experience is, but just notice this is very common throughout users that use Teams, where they'll have their own view of the world. They'll have, you know, Cindy's hub or Bill's hub or Lucy's hub, and they'll pin things. So notice I have sales opportunities. I have Yammer, like just go to Yammer, the all company feed if I want. I have external sharing where I dump files for customers. All those things are available. And so I'm going to click on email here because that's what we're trying to show you. And you'll notice here's the full Outlook web experience coming right into Teams for me. So I expanded the window so I have all the real estate there to go in and completely triage my mail. Notice the right-click contextual menu where I can reply all, I can ignore, mark as junk. Everything I'd want to do in email, I can do right here just by creating my own personal hub and then going in and adding that email tab. And so if you're wondering how I added that email tab, I just clicked on the plus button, just like I did earlier, and selected Yammer. But in this scenario, I selected a website and I just copied the URL to OWA, right? Outlook on the web, and paste it in. And you'll have to sign in once, and then we cache that token, and then you shouldn't have to sign in any longer. And so it's a super seamless way to stay in Teams, but at the same time, as you certainly don't want to miss out on important email, you can start using this as a way to bounce back and forth with email. All right. Now, the last thing I want to show you with regards to this. We talked about security a little. This is a brand new capability that we actually showed off recently, and it's available now to everyone's tenants, and that is data loss prevention in Teams. So data loss prevention is all about you not sharing information that you shouldn't with others, and it's been available in email and OneDrive and SharePoint for a long time, but we just brought it into Teams. So I want to show you. Here's Emily, right? And Emily happens to be on task for helping with a catering event. And so watch what happens. She's going to go in here to a new chat window, and she's going to say, "Hey, @Irvin." So she's going to go and pull in Irvin here, and she'll say down here in this bar, "Hey, @Irvin, I'm at the catering company. Can you send me your credit card number?" Right? And so you're probably familiar with the fact that credit card numbers are not smiled upon as far as sharing them, mainly outside of your company. But for the purposes of this video, I've created a DLP policy that says, hey, I don't want anybody sharing credit card numbers. It could be any sensitive information type, by the way. I'm just using credit card numbers as an example. And so I'm going to switch over here to Urban. And so again, my policy is saying, hey, I don't even want them to be able to share a credit card number internally, much less externally. And so here's Urban. He goes in and says, sure, it's Visa. And then if you didn't know, that's the standard testing credit card number to try and trigger a DLP policy and test it if you'd like. So Urban shares his credit card number and says, don't go crazy. He's going to hit the send button and watch what happens. It says, hey, this message was blocked. And you get a little piece of toast that pops up and says, your message has been blocked, right? And if I switch back over to Emily, then you'll see that Emily on the other side sees that Urban posted something, but it says, hey, this was blocked due to sensitive content. And so, hopefully at this point, you're seeing a lot of the things that we're doing across all of those different silos that I introduced. One thing we haven't showed is mobile, but I promise you in an upcoming Try This at Work episode, we're going to really drill into mobile and show you some exciting things there. And speaking of next week, one of the things we're going to do is take a closer look at employee engagement powered by Yammer. So it'll be the same time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, it's another 30-minute webinar covering employee engagement powered by Yammer. I'm actually going to have a guest with me, Stephen Wynn from our Yammer product group. Please come back, invite all your friends and all your colleagues at work. We'd love to show you kind of an introduction to Yammer next week. All right, don't forget, I would love for as many of you possible to try and enter into winning this amazing Wobo wallet. Again, this is just a reminder, go to aka.ms/Wobo for your chance to win a Wobo wallet. Okay, that's all we have for you. We really appreciate you joining. Thank you for staying over about 2 minutes this week. Hopefully the content starts you thinking about this new modern workplace and how it would resonate within your own organization. Reach out to your local account teams. We all love it when customers reach out and say, hey, I just saw this 30-minute video with Try This at Work. Can you come and do a little bit, deeper dive with me around this part that's more interesting to us? We'd love you to do that. All of your local account teams would love to do that. Thanks for joining us this week. We look forward to you joining next week. Thanks. Have a great weekend. Goodbye for now.